When Daniel Cross, a self-made millionaire known for his calm logic and quiet generosity, walked into his living room earlier than expected that afternoon, he thought he was stepping into an ordinary moment of domestic life, but instead he stepped into the moment that would change his future forever, because standing near the sofa was his fiancée Vanessa, elegant and flawless as always, holding a half-torn piece of paper, while his 6-year-old daughter Lily stood frozen in front of her, eyes wide and shimmering with confusion, tiny hands trembling as if she still believed the drawing could be saved, and beside them stood Rosa, the quiet nanny who had cared for Lily since her mother's death, her face pale, lips pressed together, holding a folded towel like a shield she didn't know how to use, and for a split second Daniel didn't understand what he was seeing until Lily's voice cracked and she whispered, "Daddy." She tore it, and the world seemed to slow as Daniel's gaze dropped to the ruined drawing, a simple crayon sketch of a crooked house with a bright sun and stick figures holding hands, the kind of picture only a child could make and only a loving heart could treasure, because Daniel knew that drawing well, Lily had made it for Rosa the night before, proudly explaining that the small figure at the door was Rosa, because she always stays, and when Daniel's eyes lifted back to Vanessa, she was already explaining herself with irritation rather than regret, saying the drawing was messy, inappropriate, and not something staff should be encouraging, laughing lightly as if she had simply corrected bad table manners, but Daniel didn't hear the rest because his mind was screaming with memories of Lily crying quietly after her mother's funeral, of Rosa sitting on the floor night after night helping her color, of the way Lily smiled only when she felt safe, and as Vanessa continued talking about standards and discipline, Daniel knelt down instead, carefully picked up the torn pieces from the floor, and handed them back to Lily, who clutched them to her chest as if they were fragile glass, and in that moment Daniel saw something with painful clarity, not just what Vanessa had done, but what she hadn't done. She hadn't asked, she hadn't listened, she hadn't cared, and when he finally stood up, his voice was calm but firm in a way that silenced the room as he said, that drawing was a gift, and Vanessa scoffed, rolling her eyes and saying, "Daniel, she's a child, she needs to learn what's appropriate, you're too soft with her," and the nanny encourages this dependency, and that was when Rosa finally spoke, quietly, not defensively, but with sadness, saying she just wanted to say thank you, and Lily squeezed Rosa's hand instinctively, a small movement that spoke louder than any argument, because Daniel realized then that love was not about titles or rings or perfect appearances, love was about who protected the vulnerable when no one was watching, and Vanessa had failed the test without even realizing she was being tested, and Daniel took a deep breath, looked at the woman he had planned to marry, and said the words that stunned her into silence, "The wedding is cancelled," and Vanessa laughed at first, thinking it was a joke, until she saw his expression, the unwavering resolve of a man who had built an empire by trusting his judgment, and she snapped back angrily, accusing him of choosing a nanny over his future wife, of being manipulated, of overreacting to a child's tantrum, but Daniel shook his head and said quietly, "I'm choosing my daughter, and I'm choosing the kind of home she grows up in," and with that, he asked Vanessa to leave, not cruelly, not dramatically, just decisively, because some choices do not require shouting, and after the door closed behind her, Lily burst into tears, burying her face into Daniel's chest, asking if she had done something wrong, and Daniel held her tightly, telling her she had done nothing wrong, that her kindness was a strength, not a mistake, and later that night, as Rosa tried to apologize for causing trouble, Daniel stopped her gently and said, "You didn't cause anything, you revealed it," and he had the torn drawing framed exactly as it was, missing pieces and all, hanging it in Lily's room as a reminder that love doesn't have to be perfect to be real, and in the weeks that followed, Daniel noticed something unexpected. Lily laughed more, the house felt warmer, and the silence that had lingered since his wife's passing finally lifted, and people whispered about the cancelled wedding, about how irrational he must have been, but Daniel slept peacefully knowing he had chosen empathy over image, character over convenience, and if this story touched your heart, if it reminded you that true love is shown in small moments when no one thinks it matters, then don't forget to subscribe to the channel, because these are the stories that remind us what really makes someone rich, not money, but humanity.